PhD&D on YouTube, and another edition of Moving Forth, where we try to build a better 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons for everyone. This coming from a question, the topic this week, from E.P. Gellion. And more of just a topic than a question, but he points out something that is key, I think, and says that there's a strong disconnect between combat and role-playing in 4th edition in a lot of people's minds, as if once combat starts, role-playing stops, and that doesn't need to be the case. So I'm going to discuss a few ways we handle it, a few ways you can handle it, to improve your 4th edition game and maybe change your whole mindset on the fact that combat and role-playing are different, because they don't have to be. Alright, so first of all, I have with me one of the first 4th edition characters I actually played, and his name is Uranus. He is an Eladrin Invoker. I will do a whole separate video on Invokers. It may be some cool classes I like. Invoker's my favorite class in 4th edition, hands down, but like I said, that's a topic for another day. So Uranus, what I want to talk about is, in 4th edition you have powers. You have at-will powers you can do as many times as you want, encounter powers, which you can only use once per encounter and they're a little stronger, and you have daily powers, which you can only do once per day, or once between 2 extended rests, and they're very powerful. But powers also have flavor text to distinguish exactly what's going on in those powers. So I'm going to do, let's do an at-will first of all. Avenging Light is an at-will power that Uranus has, and the flavor text says, you smite down your foe with a searing orb of light, an orb that burns with the fire of vengeance if your allies have been harmed. And that talks about, obviously, if they've hurt an ally, this attack does more. But that's the flavor text. Let's jump to written in now. No, let's just go a Thunder of Judgment for the encounter power. Blasts of thunder rock the air around your foes each time you strike your staff on the ground, leaving them battered and senseless. Encounter power. Daily power. Oh, summon Celestial Lion. I remember that one. A roar echoes across the battlefield when a golden lion leaps from a shining curtain of gold. Another example of the flavor text. So each power has flavor text to describe exactly what's going on. That can be one way to help improve the role-playing, is to point that out to your players, and maybe they're not aware, and just say, hey, by the way, you've got some flavor text there, why don't you read it? Or after they say, oh, I'm going to do summon Celestial Lion, you can say, okay, well, what does that do? Well, it does 3d10. I didn't mean that. I mean, what exactly is happening? What are we seeing? And give it to them that way, and then get them engaged by asking, and they'll say, well, this great golden lion leaps out of nothing, and you've pulled them in a little bit. Continue on with your descriptions, and if you want some tips on GMing fight scenes, check out the GM Gems, which maybe will appear somewhere, on fight scenes that I did. But that's one way. Draw them in using the flavor texts on here. Now, some people feel restricted by the flavor text, as if, the same thing happens every time I do it, really? Well, I play in a game with, actually, he's one of my players, his name is Max, runs a game, and occasionally I will get to play in that when I'm back in my hometown, and he plays 4th edition, gridless, as you can, and he doesn't use the flavor text. He specifically says when you sit down, he goes, just ignore the flavor text, you need to know what that attack does, and you need to be able, you can tell me whatever the heck you want. So, you just need to know damage it does, your attack numbers and everything else. He doesn't care if there's a certain flavor text to it. He just wants to know what you're trying to make happen on the battlefield with flavorful descriptions of your own. So, Avenging Light, maybe you don't stick to that flavor text. Maybe, your hand lights up in radiant energy and you blast it out, Dragon Ball Z style. Whatever you want. That's his style, and I really enjoyed that as well. You can, what I'm saying is get into the descriptions of it. whether it's by the flavor text as I showed you, or whether it's not using the flavor text, whether it's coming up with whatever you want. Maybe for Avenging Light, you want to strike them with your sword and have the wound glow with radiant light. That's fine. If your DM's cool with that, you're bringing more description, you're engaged in the role playing, and it doesn't have to be a disconnect. So, flavor text is a big thing. Use it or not, both ways can improve the role-playing standpoint of combat. Now I want to talk about why is there that disconnect. Well, some people have said 4th edition reminds them of, online MMOs. And I've read plenty of articles, and I should have those, but I don't, where that was actually happening before 4th edition. That was some complaints with 3rd edition and, around that time. So I don't play MMOs at all, and so I can't speak to that. But it doesn't have to have that feel to it if you change, change how you're looking at it, change how you are thinking of the game. It shouldn't have to have that certain feel to it. So, anyways, trying to beat around the bush here. They have skill challenges in 4th edition, and some people tend to think in terms of, they think in terms of encounters. Okay, well, is this a role-playing encounter, or is this a combat encounter? First of all, then there is a disconnect in the name. You are calling the skill challenge maybe talking with a prince, role-playing, and you're calling combat. You have created a disconnect right there, and that is what you don't want to do if you're trying to mesh them together a little bit more. If you're going to meet with a prince, yes, it can still be an encounter, but role-playing should be happening all the time. You refer to that maybe as, okay, we're going to have a diplomatic encounter now, if you even mention that. Or when you're talking out of game, you're saying, yeah, there will probably be some combat tonight. There will also be some interaction with NPCs. Call it anything, but don't call it role-playing encounters. We have a role-playing encounter, a role-playing skill challenge. No, you're role-playing the whole time. You have a diplomatic encounter, perhaps. You have combat encounters, but role-playing is in all of them. So, yeah, there's my rant on role-playing, on how to make it a little bit better in 4th edition, how to maybe break that disconnect between the two. Actual videos on GMing fight scenes to make them better. Like I said, check out GM Gems. Plenty of other channels have videos on this as well, so feel free. There's tons of them. I can't even name them all. Check them out. Maybe I'll put some in the description below, and thank you for watching.